Imagine a world where more women had the time to fully explore their genius. Welcome to She Rebel Radio, the UK's podcast for women leaders and founders ready to unlearn conventional rules and lead their businesses of significance. Hailed for counter-status quo ideas and a whole dose of feminine perspective, my name's Lulu Minns. I host retreats and create spaces for women leaders to explore their genius. And today, I'm going to create that same space right here for you on this podcast. Welcome to episode 120 of She Rebel Radio. Where is my genius loci? Fancy meeting you here, right here on this podcast episode today. What if no meetings were accidental and that they actually all led us to a point that we were meant to get to? Welcome to today's episode of She Rebel. Where is my genius loci? Do we all have a zone of genius? And if so, how can we find it? So today, before recording this podcast episode, I was busy cleaning up my website. In fact, I've spent some of this month clearing up quite a mess. I have been in business for 8 years in the field of personal development and leadership for women. And there is a hell of a lot of content on my website, and I've spent time clearing up, and today my job was to look at all the blogs and articles that I had on my website, and in the end I actually put them into categories where I archived them into the archive years, the pandemic years, and then 2022 and beyond. But what was really interesting is that there were a lot of common threads and topics of this journey that I have been on and the support that I provide to women leaders and female founders, and really common threads of the things that I talk about. One of the earliest blogs I found, which wasn't actually a blog, it was an audio training, which was from 2016, which was a meditation. And that's exactly what I'm going to leave you with today when we close this episode, is a meditation. And I'm going to be going to introduce, and I've been asked for a number of years to lead meditations. There's been some resistance to me doing that on my part. I think one of those things has been, well, other people can do it better than me, yoga teachers, etc. But actually, I've had a real calling and a real drive to do that, and I'm really excited to share that with you on today's episode. But why am I telling you all this? And that is because our genius loci is within us. It is a meeting point within us. It's every conversation we've ever had. It's every person we've met, the things that we've learnt that have taken us up to a particular place and time where we are ready to share our innate gifts. Now, this comes with practice and not perfection. We are always sharing those gifts, but there becomes a greater sense of urgency as we progress in this thing called life, in this thing with our businesses, that we have even more of a calling to share our innate gifts and do what it is that we're meant to be doing right here on Earth, in this Earth school, whatever you want to call it. And I was reading the book Constellations by David White. In fact, I brought the book because of his comments on, he's a poet, and his writing on the term genius loci. Because I've been obsessed with genius. It's the opening of this podcast of Imagine a World Where Every Woman Had the Time to Develop Her Genius. I've been doing that work with clients for a number of years. And David White says that we can best understand our genius if we look at the ancient sense of the word genius loci. And genius loci means, in a nutshell, spirit of the place. So it means spirit of the place, that collection of trees where they're meeting in the forest, that meeting point where the horizon meets the sea. Intuitively, we know those places that feel incredible and amazing to us. And David White calls this a confluence. Instead of us all becoming influencers, why don't we focus on our confluence, that meeting point, that special place within us which is where we can really share our innate gifts with the world. Now, one of my favourite quotes that I have used for years as well and wanted to bring into this podcast episode today is by Rumi, also a poet. And he says, "When you go from room to room, looking for the diamond necklace which is already around your own neck." So when you go from room to room, looking for the diamond necklace that is already around your own neck. And this really ties into our genius, our innate gifts that are part of us. They are not separate from us, but we can get sucked into looking in the external world for our zone of genius, for our genius self, whereas really it's within. Because I promised to share with you today, where is my genius loci? Do we all have a zone of genius, and how do we find it? And it's within. The word genius means exceptional intelligence, or creative power, or natural ability. And it may be that you resonate with one of those more than others. An exceptional intelligence, a creative power that you have, or a natural ability. Gay Hendricks in the book Big Leap said it's where our skills, talents, and strengths meet. And he has a diagram in that book of a number of circles. So again, it's that meeting point, that nebulous in the middle. And that's quite a corporate way of explaining it. And I love the additional, spiritual element of it. And I was at an event in America, in Arizona, a number of years ago with another podcaster and coach. She's incredible. But I asked her, because she asked us to read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks before we attended the event. I had read it previously and I reread it. And I asked her, it was quite a big event, what's your zone of genius? And she responded that it was writing and coaching, and even podcasting. But I felt like that was a bit of a cop-out, because I feel like our zone of genius, as well as our values, go so much deeper than almost that surface level stuff. So as I said, I've been doing this work with clients for a number of years, and clients that return and work with me every year, whether that's for a picnic coaching day or a short period or a longer period or attending a retreat, we kind of build in the layers of this work. And I'm going to give you a real starting point today to start doing this work with me. And also, I know that the clients that have worked with me for a number of years are also going to love this meditation. But one of my kind of threads, as I started this podcast episode, talking about those threads of our zone of genius, and it's where they all meet. So whilst they may not be totally individual to you, it's the meeting point of these threads that really creates your genius loci, the spirit of you, the spirit of your work, and how you can get that out into the world, which there is no blueprint for this at all. There's no blueprint. But one of mine is asking questions. That is within my zone of genius. And when on my genius loci, or the spirit of Lulu and the spirit of She Rebel Radio, and when I really discovered that, that's why I was a great litigator. That's why I'm a great coach. That's why the podcast really, really works, because that thread of my zone of genius, I've tried and practiced. I've had practice, not perfection, in a number of different ways. And I remember asking my mum whether I was a child who asked lots of questions. And you could say lots of children ask questions. But she said, 100%. That was her answer straight away. And actually, one of my dad's first bands was called Elephants from Texas, because I asked whether elephants indeed did come from Texas. So you could say that's a smart question for a 4-year-old, or perhaps not, but it was definitely an inquisitive one. And I always had lots of questions about animals, and I'm a big animal lover and kind of their place in the world. So, and chose to be vegetarian at the age of 8 as well. So we all have a zone of genius. There are threads. We have to get super curious about it. And, us as women, we haven't had as many role models. I think it's us accepting that. And there was an exhibition or a poster I saw at the Tate Gallery which said about women artists, and that they haven't had the inconvenience of being called a genius. What an inconvenience. And there's so many incredible women artists. But, historically, men have been given the label of genius, of being a genius. That's, Mozart, Shakespeare, traditionally white men. And, because they've had the platforms, if you like, and the privilege to have that status. Virginia Woolf, in A Room of Her Own, wrote about Shakespeare's sister. She made a fictional sister who didn't have the foundation for her poetic license because of the oppression of her parents, because the pressures of society, and, really laid out how women had not been given access. And did you know, on that note, Mozart had an incredibly talented sister called Anne-Marie. She was 4.5 years older than him. She was a child prodigy, playing music, just as talented, some people say, if not more talented. There are letters, particularly between her, I don't really want to call him Mozart now because she was also Mozart until she married, but Wolfgang Mozart, and talking about her incredible talent. But when she got to a certain age, i.e. an age where she could be married, she wasn't allowed to tour and use her gift anymore. She wasn't allowed to nurture that innate gift, but also that gift, when I've said that it's everything has taken us to a particular point. It was their father who taught them how to play music in the first place. So it's also our cultural inheritance, the families that we're born into, etc. And I always find musicians extremely interesting. And I was watching the Netflix documentary with Wham, and Andrew Ridgeley was talking about, had we not sat next together at school that day, who knows what would have happened, because he was a massive catalyst, in Wham, and then George Michael becoming the genius and superstar that we all know him to be. So my answer is yes, we all have our genius, but we need the foundations in place for us to be able to find it. And it is that we find it, we don't achieve it. So we can think that we do more or we learn more, and it's all those things that we kind of gather very naturally, all those threads, those points of interest that lead us to a certain point. Now, Dolly Parton says, we must find out who we are and do it on purpose. And that really is it. It's innate within us. It's not separate from us. And meditation, as I said, I'm going to lead you through a meditation on this podcast, is really something that reminds us that we are part of lots of things and not separate from these things. And our genius, just like that, is something that we find by releasing our resistance to it. So the stories that we make up in our mind, and we need to find a place of quiet. We need to have time to discover it, which again, women's history and our present experience is that women tend to have much, much less time in order to do this. And my promise to you on this podcast is to create that time for you. So I am going to take you through a 10 to 15 minute meditation and a journaling tool afterwards for you to really connect with threads of yourself, of your higher self, and to trust it is not a linear journey when we are, stepping into our genius loci. And it will do it, you will be on that journey with or without your conscious awareness of it. But when you become really conscious about it and curious about it, then it can be a really fun journey of discovery, I guess, is what I'm inviting you to consider, of pulling those threads together and finding that meeting place within yourself. And, as women coming into our 40s and 50s, it becomes ever more urgent that we really pull those threads together and do the work that we are meant to do. And as I said, there is no blueprint for this. There is no linear process, but I always have tools for you to step into your genius. So enjoy the meditation. This is a guided meditation. I'm going to give you a series of I am statements, otherwise known as mantras or affirmations. You can choose which word relates to you. And the statement I am relates to our root chakra, which is at the base of our spine. It is our foundation. And what I would love you to do is notice the sensation you feel in your body for each section of this meditation. I'd love for you to let that sensation drop in and then let it go. Thoughts come and they go. It's not about following your thoughts, it's about being the observer of them. So to begin, I'd love for you to find somewhere comfortable to sit. Or you can lie down if you prefer. Find somewhere that you feel that you can either sit in lotus position or cross-legged position, or to lie down that you feel that you'll be comfortable within for around 15-20 minutes. And once you've found that place, I'm going to ask you to consider where you can put your hands. If you feel like you need some grounding, if you want to be held and feel some safety and security of being held, put your palms down, either in your lap or on either knee, or if you're lying down, it can be on your stomach, on your womb space. And feel that grounding sensation with your palms down. Or if you want to receive what this meditation may bring to you, and receiving is a very feminine principle, you do the opposite and you put your palms up and the backs of your hands are down on your knees, in your lap, on your stomach, by your side, wherever feels good. There is no right or wrong way of doing this, and you may feel different on different days as to whether you need grounding and being held, or you're open to receiving something maybe unexpected. So let's begin, and I'm going to ask you, now you're in that comfortable position, you've decided whether your hands are palm up or palm down, to close your eyes if it feels safe to do so, and if it doesn't, just to find a soft focus, to look down, soften your gaze, or if you're closing your eyes, take some time to notice the place in between your two eyes, slightly above, which is known as our third eye, and to bring your focus back there at times that your mind may wander or may drift, which it will. But for now, with your eyes closed or your soft focus, I'm going to ask you to focus on the breath. To inhale through your nose, and I'm going to ask you to exhale with your mouth and even make a sigh if it feels good to do so. We're going to do this 3 times. Inhale with your nose, exhale with your mouth, let it go. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Then I'm going to ask you to close your mouth, maybe have a soft smile on your face, and focus on inhaling and exhaling through your nose only, where that's possible. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your nose. And I'm asking you only to deepen the breath slightly more than you would on a normal day. So deepen it slightly, but not to an extreme. Focus on your inhale and your exhale. Feel the expansion when you inhale and a release when you exhale. And if you've got your hands on your belly, or you may feel it, you will expand when you inhale. Your diaphragm will expand, and feel the release and the drop in on your exhale. Focus on the breath of the inhale and the exhale. And I am going to start delivering to you a series of I am statements. Let them drop in and let them drop out. And when your mind wanders, go back to your anchor that is the breath. I am content. I am contentment. I am the most contented version of myself. Feel the sensation. I am content. I am contentment. Focus on the breath, the inhale and the exhale. I am the most contented version of myself. I am happy. I am happiness. I am the happiest version of myself. Focus on the sensation, the inhale and the exhale. And if your mind wanders, notice and let it go. I am happy. I am happiness. I am the happiest version of myself. I am joyful. I am joy. I am the most joyful version of myself. Focus on the sensation. I am joyful. I am joy. I am the most joyful version of myself. I am abundant. I am abundance. I am the most abundant version of myself. Focus on the sensation, the inhale and the exhale. I am abundant. I am abundance. I am the most abundant version of myself. I am loving. I am love. I am the most loving version of myself. I am loving. I am love. I am the most loving version of myself. I am free. I am freedom. I am the freest version of myself. I am free. I am freedom. I am the freest version of myself. I am content. I am contentment. I am the most contented version of myself. I am content. I am contentment. I am the most contented version of myself. I am happy. I am happiness. I am the happiest version of myself. I am happy. I am happiness. I'm the happiest version of myself. I am joyful. I am joy. I am the most joyful version of myself. I am joyful. I am joy. I am the most joyful version of myself. I am abundant. I am abundance. I'm the most abundant version of myself. I am abundant. I am abundance. I'm the most abundant version of myself. I am loving. I am love. I'm the most loving version of myself. I am loving. I am love. I'm the most loving version of myself. I am free. I am freedom. I'm the freest version of myself. I am free. I am freedom. I'm the freest version of myself. I am content and happy. I am joyful and abundant. I am loving and free. I am content and happy. I am joyful and abundant. I am loving and free. Now I'd love for you to take a moment just to notice your breath, the inhale and the exhale. Notice the sensation of your breath in your body, and return your breath to the body. I want you to become more aware of your body, of where you are sitting or lying, You may want to wiggle your fingers or your toes to bring yourself back now into the body, into the room, to maybe shift your body slightly left to right, and gently, only when you feel ready, to start opening your eyes, slowly, gently, still being mindful of the breath and taking your time to come out of this meditation. And grabbing your pen and paper or a worksheet, I would love for you to pick one of the mantras. There were 6 sections in the meditation, and I'm going to give you, or 6 words, I'm going to give you the 6 words, and I'd love for you to pick the one that resonated the most. And you can even go back again and listen to this meditation to see which one really sat with you. And I collected these words from people that I was talking to, and before downloading this meditation, which came very easily and naturally. So those words are content, happy, joyful, abundant, loving, free. So I'll repeat them. Content, happy, joyful, abundant, loving, free. So pick one of those words, the one that resonated or you felt the most sensation during the meditation, or maybe where you felt the most blocked during the meditation, or maybe you've picked one of those words yourself this year for an intention for yourself, is to pick one and consider that version of yourself. So the most contented version of yourself, the happiest version of yourself, the most joyful version of yourself, the most abundant version, loving version of yourself, the freest version, because that version of you will be very different to that version of somebody else. And I would love for you to feel into that sensation of that person and to journal how it is. You may have the worksheet there, but if you don't, then just grabbing a plain piece of paper and writing down, I am the most content version of myself, or I am that most happy version of myself, or the most joyful, whichever word you've picked. And then to journal your answers to these questions. How does she feel? What does she do? Where does she go? And what does she say? So how does she feel? What does she do? Where does she go? And what does she say? This happiest version of yourself, or this most joyful or loving version of yourself, because this is an invitation for you to connect with that version of yourself, that highest version of yourself, that meeting point within you of that word, and to connect with her in this present moment into that future version of yourselves and aspects of her that is already present within you, and to connect and deepen that, and to create your next steps from here. So it's been an honor to deliver this to you. I think I'm going to call this the She Rebel I Am meditation, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And as I've said, go back and listen to it again, and as many times as you like, and undertake the journaling, maybe for each of the 6 sections. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to She Rebel Radio. I've been Lulu Minns, and before you go, I'd love to invite you to join me online in September for 2 essential Women in Leadership trainings: the 3 Keys to Self-Actualization and the Feminine Leadership Principles. These 2 trainings will support you to unleash more of your genius into the world in only the way that you can. They are essentials for all women leaders and she rebels in today's world, and they will even deepen your perspective when tuning into this podcast. I'd love to see you there. Check out the show notes below.